I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Jedi Knights. This is episode 81. I'm your host, Christian Buckley, joined by my Buryaga, Mike Connors.
How are you today? It's a very beautiful day here. Nice weather, finally becoming summer. I'm ready for it.
Hell yeah, man. It's actually... Are you in Massachusetts right now?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm, like, high up here right now, but I was chilly. I got a t-shirt and shorts on, but I had to close the window before I started recording. I was like, it's too cold.
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of windy outside. I
Yeah.
can't believe we're having weather talk on the Jedi Knights podcast. It's ridiculous. Yeah, no, it is cold, but I'm happy because it's finally getting nice outside, and all the flowers are blooming, and I like that. So
My nose does not like it with the constant sneezing, but thankfully I think I should be good today. So
yes.
we got a good week of Star Wars stuff to talk about, a new episode of The Bad Batch. Some rumors as well, some updates on Kenobi, and we'll get to all of that. But Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Haven't been doing much Star Wars stuff since May 4th, other than watching The Bad Batch, of course.
Yes.
But it's been a Star Wars light sort of thing for me. I have been playing World of Warcraft recently, which is like a new thing on my plate. But yeah, how about you? What have you been up to?
Not a ton. I wanted to see what you did after the recording last week, if you did any other Star Wars stuff for May 4th, because I didn't do this on the 4th, but on the 5th, I did, because, Revenge of the 5th is a thing.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of those sales were carrying over, so I did end up buying a nice little R2-D2 shirt that is shipping in the mail from the Ashley Eckstein line.
Oh, did you buy it from what is her universe or something like that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is it? Can you describe the shirt?
So it's like a navy blue t-shirt, and it just says R2-D2 on it in like a nice, simple, straightforward font. And then the R2-D2 is like made up of like his color schemes and parts and little buttons. It looks really cool. I'll wear it.
That is very
when I
cool.
get it for the show.
Yeah, obviously you have to. Yeah, that'll go very well with your handle Chun2V too.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, it has to be this, but
I didn't realize. I think you brought it up to me last week, but I didn't realize her universe had a male line of clothing for males. I always thought originally I think it was just for women.
Yeah, I think at first it was just like to make more merch available to a wider audience that are Star Wars fans. But since I think it came out, because I remember it was a big deal when she launched all that, but since then it's really been fleshed out to just like so much stuff. There's a lot of stuff on that outlet. But
yeah. Well, I mean, I might be wrong. Honestly, it just seems like I don't know if I was correct in saying that, but I don't know. It's interesting. It's cool. I like the lines.
For sure.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And before we get rolling, I want to pay quick respects because fellow Star Wars podcasts that I've listened to, I know you've listened to, Cantina Conversations, great show. They are wrapping up with their final episode next week. They are.
Oh wow!
They're finishing off, so be sure to check them out. Get out there, support their final episode because they make a great show.
Yeah, they definitely did do a good show. It's sad to see them leave the community, but hopefully they're on to brighter things.
I'm pretty sure the three of them, DJ, Will, and Jackson, still do like a superhero movie podcast. They're going through like every single superhero movie, so like I think that's still running. But yeah, check out Cantina Convo. It's a great show. Greatly enjoyed it. So
yeah, check out those previous episodes if you haven't.
But before we get into the news, the rigmarole, let's go through the show intro we do every week called From the Jedi Archives, where we pull from the sacred texts of Wikipedia to educate each other and the audience on something from Star Wars, canon or legends. Mike, hit me with what you got.
So I, like you, I believe, hit the random button today for my Wikipedia page. And I landed on, after a few times of pressing the button, full transparency, landed a few times on some Wikipedia pages that were really short, but I came across this one called Yun, and I guess Yun, a force-sensitive male Epicanthics, I've never even heard of that before, was the son of a wealthy mineral born on Panatha. At a very young age, he became infatuated with Saris, the prophetess of the Church of the Dark Side. He fell to the dark side of the Force and killed his own father. Oops, spoilers. But yeah, seems like a legend character here. Just interesting. He's got a very long Wikipedia page. I guess he was in a lot of the books, I guess, and some of the comics. But yeah, just very interesting. I had never heard of this character, and seems as though he was a pretty big expanded universe character. So interesting.
Very cool. Yeah. Is there any specific piece of media they're from?
I was looking at that, and I'm not honestly familiar with any of them. I was as I was scrolling through the page itself, there was a lot of references to Kyle Katarn.
Okay.
So in that sort of vein, it says Dark Forces Rebel Agent. Oh yeah, Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2.
Okay.
Star Wars Jedi Knight Mystery of the Sith. I've never played those, but interesting stuff.
Very cool. Well,
yeah.
This week I also went random, and I think this was the first one I got. It struck me because I see the title and then I read because I'm like, what is this? It's called 16, just the number 16.
Okay.
16 was a clone trooper under the command of Clone Commander Vargas. 16 is one of the clones featured in the book The Clone Wars Decide Your Destiny, The Lost Legion. He only appears if certain choices are made. If some other choices are picked, 16 is replaced with 23. Now, Mike, reading that out loud, that sounds like a choose-your-own-adventure book.
It does sound like a choose-your-own adventure book. Is that what it's from? Can you confirm?
I think so. So the Clone Wars Decide Your Destiny, The Lost Legion has a page. Let me go over to it right now.
Yeah, I used to get those choose-your-own-adventure Star Wars books at the library so much as a kid, where you can go on adventures with Han Solo and then Millennium Falcon and be like, turn to page 123 or whatever, and then turn back to page 56.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
So it looks like Decide Your Destiny was a line of choose-your-own-adventure books based on the Clone Wars, which is awesome. I had no idea those existed, but
that's crazy.
When I was younger, my only experience with a choose-your-own-adventure book was I had a Zelda one that was based off the Game Boy Color game, but I always thought it was cool. But knowing that there's a Star Wars one, that's awesome.
Yeah, I remember getting them at the public library when I was a kid, for sure. And they must have been older ones, probably from the 90s. But so is this one relatively newer, 2000s era Choose Your Own Adventure, based off of the Clone Wars TV show?
Yeah. So the cover I clicked on, it looks like the clones from the first 3 seasons of Clone Wars. So probably around that time. Yeah.
But, okay, gotcha. Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, so I don't know the role 16 played. It seemed very vague. Probably not important if it could just be replaced by 23. But
I was going to say, yeah, you could just easily get 23 instead. So
yeah. So, well, that does it for the Jedi Archives this week. Good picks all around.
Yes.
Why don't we get into some news? Mainly the first one. Ewan McGregor.
Oh, yeah.
He's shooting Obi-Wan Kenobi right now. They're on set. He's in his trailer. And he was on Jimmy Kimmel Live. I think that's the name of his late night show.
I think so, yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel, who, honestly, very interesting. It makes sense because ABC is a Disney network, and Jimmy Kimmel is the ABC late night show. So Jimmy Kimmel's always the one that gets to interview, the Marvel stars when there's a big MCU movie, the Star Wars people. Just because
he always gets the cool backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah. So
and always gets the panels. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a nice little bonus of working for the mouse. But Ewan McGregor was on the show recently, and he was talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there was a clip that I watched through the interview where he was going back and forth with Jimmy Kimmel, having some fun laughs about Star Wars, being back in the suit, stuff we've heard. No major takeaways, really, but there were a few things I wanted to highlight where Jimmy asked Ewan McGregor if they did anything special on set for May 4th. And what was interesting was his response where he said, he shot a very special scene with someone who's very important to him on May 4th, and it's somebody who he hasn't been on screen with before. And then Jimmy said, "Is it someone you're related to?" And he said, "Not necessarily." I don't know what this means, but what was your take on that? What are you picturing here?
I don't know. Like my first thing that I thought of was, oh my God, is Wedge Antilles somehow gonna like show up? Like, because for those who don't know, I think it was his uncle or something it played Wedge Antilles. I forget the name of that character of that actor. But yeah, I mean that it's just interesting. It could really be anybody. We have no idea like who is close to Ewan McGregor and who isn't. The fact that he said not necessarily to, is it somebody who you're related to? It's kind of interesting. Though I don't know, like, if he's really related to anybody else who's, who could feasibly be in Star Wars. But
yeah, like, my first thought was, I know his daughter is like, I think around our age, and she does a lot of like independent film stuff. So like, I didn't know if maybe she would have got brought in, like how Billy Lord was brought in for the sequel trilogy, maybe for like a small thing, but like
possibly,
maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. Well, it's definitely not anybody that he was in episode 3 with. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, like you couldn't say like, oh, he was just talking about Hayden or whoever. I forget who plays Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, but yeah, I mean, like the daughter thing would be a really nice touch, because, like you said, with Carrie Fisher and her daughter and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it could really be anybody, but it's just cool to know that like that he was like having fun on Star Wars Day, and that also like there might be some small Easter egg for us or a big Easter egg. We don't know.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up Hayden Christensen, because they danced around that in the interview as well, because he asked also if he's like been in Darth Vader's dressing room. He said, "Do you have a bigger dressing room than Vader?" And he's like, "I haven't been there. I don't even know if he's in the show. Maybe he's not in the show." And then he was like, "Did they not like that's announced? That's public info that like Darth Vader's in the show. Did they not tell you that?" So it's funny. It's just seeing what these actors are told, what they're able to say out loud. Like, obviously he knows, but he has regulations on what he can and can't say when he's talking to the press.
Yeah, it's very funny for him to be like, trying to tiptoe around that and like he wasn't sure whether or not that was public or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he made a quip. He was like, "Oh, they give me like, a few words to say and I just repeat those." And I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Probably you don't want anything to get out and be spoiled. I mean, he even made a good point, because I watched the segment too. Ewan McGregor said that like he doesn't even really like teasing things, because it sort of just like spoils it for fans, which I appreciate.
Otherwise, there were a few fun little anecdotes. He was talking about some parties he's been to and things like that, and just it's really great. It seems like he's very excited to be back in the role, which is awesome, because we're all excited that he's back. So looking forward to seeing something in the near future. Maybe we do get a costume test, because he does imply maybe the costume's a little different, which expected, right? Like episode 3 versus episode 4, he's wearing different clothes, so we'll see what's up.
Definitely. Well, I'm just excited for this show, and I'm happy that like production on it's moving along. And it was cool to just like kind of get a peek into the fact that he was like on set when he was doing that interview with Jimmy Kimmel. So
yeah,
good to know.
Very, very exciting. So more interesting news though. A little cleanup from May the 4th. Moses Ingram, who is a star in Obi-Wan Kenobi, on Star Wars Day, she posted on her Instagram her doing some pretty impressive tricks and training with a lightsaber. Now, I don't know if you saw this, Mike, but it seemed a bit more like complex than just a big Star Wars fan who knows one piece of choreography, right? It seemed like she was really working a lightsaber.
Oh, it definitely seemed like she was working the lightsaber. Even like where she was, it looked like she was like on set or something like that. The lightsaber that she had was like definitely the ones that they used for the sequel trilogy. Yeah, I feel like she's definitely playing a Jedi, probably one that survived Order 66. That's what I would believe. And to the fact that you mentioned she looks like she's pretty nice with the lightsaber, she probably was, trained at the Jedi Temple and has all of the backflipping and good lightsaber skills that we know the prequel trilogy to have. I would hope that like the lightsaber combat in this show is more like prequel esque. I don't. It's kind of interesting to think about. But it's cool to see that like Obi-Wan will likely not be the only Jedi in the show. It would only make sense. It's only 10 years after the Purge, so.
So I have to wonder then if this is going to be a character we're familiar with, or an original character who also maybe has an arc similar to Cal Kestis, where they were very young. Because I believe Moses Ingram is on the younger side, that like if her character is representative of her own age, then she was probably around Cal's age when the Purge happened. So
she was in the Queen's Gambit, correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
I think very exciting. But I think my biggest takeaway here was that I was just surprised that there was going to be another Jedi in the mix. So maybe that's pretty central to the story. Maybe Obi-Wan is like, oh, there's a young Jedi out there. I know I swore to protect Luke, but like maybe this is also very important because this is a surviving member of my organization that I should help.
Yeah, and I feel like him coming to terms with the fact that like I don't know, just like him coming to terms with the fact that like what happened happened. Like that would be a good vehicle for to sort of show like where Obi-Wan has gone through in the last 10 years and like how he's processed that event with like the Order 66 and everything. Him like taking up the responsibility to like help another of his kind after being in exile for so long could be a really interesting way to sort of like get deeper into his psyche and like I don't know, just like it seems interesting. I'm also sort of wondering if maybe like this is just going to be a sort of like side character that like he meets along the way. That could also be a possibility. So I mean I hope that she's a central character because honestly I thought she was really great in the Queen's Gambit and I just think that it would be interesting to see Obi-Wan Kenobi have to go through sort of like helping another of his kind for sure.
Yeah, and I do wonder also, like, if there is another lightsaber here, right? Like, you imagine there's going to be some more lightsaber combat than just Obi-Wan versus Vader at some point. So, like, maybe he's helping her out and she fights an Inquisitor, and we.
That's what I was about to say.
Like, maybe, what if because again, this show is probably going to have a sad ending, right? Like.
Yeah.
I doubt there's going to be a big triumphant victory for Obi-Wan shepherding a Padawan after all this time, and then we see him again in 4, right? So, like...
Yeah, no.
I see maybe an ending similar to Fallen Order, where it's like, I don't know if we actually won, but we all walked away, like...
Yeah, probably.
So, that'd be fun. That'd be cool.
You mentioned an Inquisitor. And you wrote here in the doc, you asked the question, how much of Kenobi will involve action? And I think, like, honestly, a fair amount of it. We know, like, just Ewan McGregor enjoys the fighting part of, like, Star Wars. Like, he's gone on record saying that as much. And I feel like, he's still in, like, really good health. Like, you might as well just, like, use what you got, like... And honestly, the fans want to see Obi-Wan like kick ass. So like, if he's like flinging the lightsaber around, that would be awesome. I love the idea about the Inquisitors. I'd love to see that in live action. We've only seen that in games or animated television. This is like the perfect time to do it, especially since we know Vader's going to be showing up. That's just like it just makes a lot of sense. So. I would be interested to see like another Jedi fight an Inquisitor, or like even Obi-Wan fight an Inquisitor or something like that.
It would be very cool. I believe, unfortunately, the show takes place after Fallen Order, so no Trilla, because she's spoilers for Fallen Order, she's gone.
Yep.
But, any sort of little tiny connections to that even would be very fun. So
Yeah, it would be so cool.
We'll see what happens there, but in the meantime, we do have other Disney Plus content to look forward to, mainly those involving some Mandalorians for this year, because we do have, as it stands, the first episode of The Mandalorian Season 3, at least, but more importantly,
Yep.
the Book of Boba Fett. More
Oh, yeah.
pressingly, maybe. Not important, but more pressing.
Yes, I feel like that's coming out before.
Yes.
Rumored. Yeah, as they say.
And some evidence of that, there's now available on shopdisney.com. You can get some Book of Boba Fett merch. I don't know if you got a good look at this at all, Mike, but it's not super expansive right now.
Yeah, I see that you wrote here in the doc that it's just the logo.
Yeah, it's like, it is the Book of Boba Fett logo, which is an alright logo. It's a pretty good logo.
Yeah.
On some t-shirts.
It kind of looks like the Bad Batch logo.
Yeah, which also looks like the Clone Wars logo, you know? Like,
Yeah, true.
it's just a logo on some t-shirts and some hoodies, but, you know, that's usually the phase 1 for merch, so, you know, Book of Boba Fett, probably on track. You know, I feel like with these shows, specifically the Star Wars ones that do shoot on the stagecraft, you know, screen stages, production because of COVID hasn't been halted too much. So Book of Boba Fett is wrapped shooting. I assume that's going to be on track. We'll probably get more merch later in the year. Maybe we get that good robed Boba Black series that I wanted so badly last year. Maybe we get that this year.
I'm sure we will. We have to. I just really want a Cobb Vanth Black series. I don't know what's going on with that.
Do you think Cobb Vanth is going to show up in Book of Boba Fett?
I hope so. That would be awesome. I think he should. Just because, like, I don't know, it'd be cool to see Boba Fett like go back and like have to deal with that. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Another piece of Mando information that came out this week I thought was very interesting. A producer for The Simpsons, who recently produced the short The Force Awakens from its nap, Maggie Simpson, for Star Wars Day, had an interesting quote with CBR.com about some rules regarding Star Wars, specifically Grogu, that Lucasfilm gave them. They said, quote, Lucasfilm only had one rule, which I totally got, which was they said don't overuse Grogu because they were afraid, you know, the character is so popular that they don't want to burn it out. They want to keep Grogu special, which I completely understand. So we just have a little tip of the hat to him. Now, I thought that was an interesting quote, Mike, because on the shelf behind me, I have a Grogu Funko Pop, I have a Grogu Lego Brickhead. Downstairs in my bedroom, I have a Grogu, like, little plush stuffed vinyl head that's life-size. Like, Grogu overstimulation, do you think that's a thing?
I think it's already become a thing. I'm not really sure like what they're talking about. Maybe they're finally understanding that like Grogu has like permeated our culture so like intrinsically that like maybe they need to like back off. But like I don't understand this. Like it's just a Simpsons thing. I guess like they wanted to keep it short and like not focus too much on it. But like the fact that they don't want to burn it out, I feel like it's already burnt out in a way. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Like,
I mean, I love Grogu, right? I think Grogu is like an incredible. I'm so like they nailed that, right? That's such a huge thing, and they nailed it.
No, I want to say like when I'm saying that I agree that it's burned out. Like I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I still like Grogu. Yeah.
And I'm with you. Of like, I don't know if I'd even say it's burnt out, but I feel like if it was going to burn out, it would have by now, you know? Because, like, what I said, look at my shelf, right? Like,
no, for real.
So much. And, like, people are still loving it, you know? And I don't think anybody's going to get sick of, like, nobody really ever got sick of BB-8. We got used to BB-8, but we didn't get sick of BB-8.
But I do feel like Grogu has already sort of like, you know, taken that mantle out of BB-8 and like our culture, and like everybody recognizes him, and like I don't know, like you just kind of see it everywhere. Like you can see people with like Baby Yoda like stickers like on their cars and stuff like that. So in a way, like I feel like it has been sort of overused in that way. But like, you know, like you said, it's sort of just the same as like R2D2 or C3PO. So can you really overuse it to begin with? Like probably not.
But I think an interesting angle here would be that because, you know, maybe they want to say, hey, in official, not like canon. You know, this isn't a canon thing. It's just a fun little skit, but like,
Yeah.
it is an officially produced on Disney Plus thing involving Star
Yes.
Wars. And right now we know the focus is the Bad Batch. The focus is Book of Boba Fett. Like, considering at the end of Mando Season 2, Grogu's given up to Luke, we're wondering, like, okay, so where do we pick up in Season 3? Is Season 3 mostly Din by himself? Is that going to be, like, us mirroring him of missing Grogu? Like, maybe they don't want Grogu in the spotlight, so that way, when Grogu returns at some point, you imagine in Season 3, it hits harder because he's been gone for so long. So that's the only angle I can think of, maybe. They don't want to use him as a marketing tool for at least the next year or so.
That's an interesting sort of thing. I mean, I do think that they have plans for Grogu. Like, I feel like, they wouldn't throw him away and just like, give him up to Luke and like he's never going to show up in the Mandalorian again. And we have discussed on this podcast how we think, there should be a time jump in the Mandalorian, and that Din Djarin is going to have to go through like that the grief of losing somebody that he's really close to. And so kind of bringing the audience along on that journey, it would be prudent for them to sort of not use Grogu in their marketing. So I could definitely see that as being part of like why they don't want to overuse him. I'm also thinking like just thinking about the actual skit itself. It was like 3 minutes long, and I feel like it would be really easy for the Simpsons writers to just be like, oh, like Maggie finds like cute Maggie finds like cute Grogu, and they go on a cute adventure with each other,
Yeah.
Like so maybe that's just like part of it as well. They're just like, hey, cool with the Grogu stuff.
Yeah, I think that's much more accurate of a guess.
Yeah.
Because it just makes sense, right? Like, it's a 3-minute skit.
Yeah.
The focus was Maggie versus baby Darth Maul. You could have easily written Grogu to be your backup that entire thing. So like, I get it
For sure. Yeah.
But speaking of
Interesting, though.
Speaking of Mandalorian and Grogu and Season 3, I didn't throw this on the doc because it seemed like a nothing quote, but it does seem relevant to what we're talking about.
Okay.
Dave Filoni was on GMA recently, and he was asked about Season 3 of The Mandalorian, specifically, balancing it with Book of Boba Fett and what to expect out of Season 3. And Filoni's general quote about Season 3 is as follows. I don't like to go into answers without John here, my partner John Favreau. It's exciting. We're both working on that. We're working on Book of Boba Fett right now. So there's a lot of new adventures coming up. I have to be careful. I can't really say anything specific, but I think the Force will be strong with it. Let's just say that. And people are running with that, expecting that Season 3 of Mandalorian deals much more with the Force and a lot more with Luke and Grogu.
I think that's probably a good guess. If you think about it sort of from an objective standpoint, there hasn't been much emphasis on the Force in The Mandalorian. In fact, a lot of it is like Din Djarin learning about it. So, having like the next maybe 2 seasons focus on, more of that concept now that like our main character and maybe people who watch the show who aren't super into Star Wars now fully understand the concept and can kind of get into more interesting uses of the Force. I think that's I just see that as the natural progression of the show. I also think that his comment is just sort of a general sort of platitude. Like, obviously, like as Star Wars fans, it's just sort of something we say. So, I mean, like, I don't want to like read too much into like what is a seemingly innocuous quote, but I do think that there is a lot of there's a lot of truth in it, and I think that it would just make sense from a story point of view for the Force to become more of a central aspect of the plot and the storytelling and everything.
For sure. So I'm right there with you. I think there's a chance, but also, it's Filoni. He likes making Star Wars jokes, so
yeah,
that's an easy way to brush off an answer.
Yeah, it did almost seem like a non-answer to me.
Yeah,
but I do see where people are reading into it, and I understand. Like, I think that what is the Mandalorian without Grogu, right? So, he's going to have to be in it somehow, and like we've discussed, like there's got to be some sort of time jump or something. So, I think the Force is going to be strong with it too, but I'm not involved.
Well, we will wait and see. But
yeah,
another thing that popped up this week that I want to just pick your brain on
Oh yeah.
is something that, of course, like if Lucasfilm came to me, if anybody came to me, if some reason somebody wanted to interview Christian Buckley, and they were like, "Hey, would you want to direct a Star Wars thing?" I'd be like, "Hell yeah, sure, why not?"
Yeah. Okay.
There's people running with rumors, like some sites are saying that this is a thing that may or may not be happening, which I personally doubt. But apparently, Zack Snyder is interested in making a Star Wars movie, like every director that exists.
Yeah. Who wouldn't be? But
But
Zack Snyder is like, especially equipped, I feel.
so I want to have the conversation more of, as you and I, would we like to see a Zack Snyder Star Wars movie / what do we expect it would be? Because personally, I like Man of Steel, his Superman movie. I like the director's cut of Batman v Superman a decent amount more than the theatrical one. And I thought the Snyder cut was way better than the Justice League that Joss Whedon did. But I don't think Zack Snyder is like an amazing director, but I think he does good visuals. He has a good eye for that.
Yeah. He has a great eye for that. I remember when I was a kid, I remember really enjoying the movie Sucker Punch. You ever seen the movie Sucker Punch?
I did not.
Oh, okay, that's a Zack Snyder movie. But honestly, like, I also somewhat enjoy Zack Snyder's films. I think he has like a very distinctive style, and it's it takes getting used to in a way, and like some people don't like it, and I totally understand that. I do think like he thrives when he has like greater direction over the projects that he has. I also like the Snyder cut. I like the Watchmen director's cut like a lot. I also like the director's cut for Batman versus Superman, and I love Man of Steel as well. So I would be down to see Zack Snyder like give it a shot. I feel like he would probably need like a 4-hour movie because that's how he rolls. But yeah, in terms of like what it would look like, it would definitely be something like sort of darker. I think that he could do a really good job with like the Old Republic maybe if he wanted to. I would be down to see it. It would be stylistically pretty interesting, and he's got an interesting mind. So I would be interested to see it. I'd be down.
Yeah, you nailed the era that I imagine Zack Snyder tackling, because I think, here's the thing. If I could have my dream scenario, I would like to see his influence over this as like a cinematographer or a director of photography type thing, and then maybe working as a directing duo with another director who's like, because the thing is, I enjoy Zack Snyder's movies, but when it comes to Star Wars, I enjoy some of them, but when it comes to Star Wars, I think having a more traditional dialogue acting based real strong director paired with Zack Snyder for the visuals, I think he could bring the Old Republic to life in a way that is like the on-screen equivalent of all those kick-ass cinematics for the Old Republic MMO,
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't want him to like write the screenplay or anything. Like I wouldn't want him to like touch the story. But like you said, he's like really talented. I don't know. He's really like a very talented at like the visual arts and everything. And he makes very beautiful movies, and I think that he would do Star Wars justice in that way. Yeah, I guess in terms of like, him actually having a say over what goes on in the films, maybe not. But in another way though, Zack Snyder is the type of person who I feel like would want to have that creative control. And if he did that, he wouldn't do it. So
yeah, that's why I said dream scenario, because I don't think you get a world where he's like, again, I like some of his work, but I do think if you get Zack Snyder and he's not full creative control, I don't think you have Zack Snyder at this point.
Yeah. I mean, like, he got what he wanted with the Snyder cut for the Justice League, and now he's not going to take any 2-hour cuts of his movies no longer. So,
sure. But I do remember, thought this was funny seeing this pop up, because when Disney originally bought Star Wars, do you remember there were those rumors of those few projects that were going on that, like, I think Josh Trank was making a Boba Fett movie, and there was gonna be a Yoda Origins movie, and there was a Kenobi movie, I think, in that rumor as well, and the one that had my attention at the time, because again, this was post Man of Steel, was a Zack Snyder, like, Seven Samurai but with Jedi type movie for Star Wars. And again, Seven Samurai, that's like the most basic thing you could do anymore at this point. Like, it's just been done to death. But like, the idea of like just Zack Snyder being like, I like Kurosawa, and then like just making it like
and making a bad Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it'd be like fun to watch, I think. Like, turn off the dialogue, just like have it be silent, music only. Maybe that'd be fun, you know?
Yeah, no, it would look really good. That's for sure. I do remember that batch of rumors. And as far as I know, like the Boba Fett, there was actually some truth to the Boba Fett one. They were like thinking about making a movie or something, and then they didn't. Big sad. But we're just gonna get the TV show instead. So
yeah. A few other things popped up this week that I wanted to just give a shout out to. There's a Bad Batch Lego set that was, I think, shown off on Revenge of the Fifth. It is available everywhere right now. It's $100. I was very tempted, but I'm gonna wait for a sale if it happens. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a sale. It's their transport shuttle, right? It's like their ship.
Yeah, and it has the whole crew. No Omega, but it has like Crosshair, Wrecker, Tech, Hunter, and Echo. So
interesting. What color is their ship? Like, because I was like looking at like the episode 2, and it like looked different than like episode 1, but I think like maybe episode 1 it was just like always in like really low lighting. Because at first I was like, oh, they have like a darker colored ship, and then like in episode 2 I was like, oh, it's definitely like gray.
Yeah, it looks like a light blue gray color.
Okay.
And it comes with 2 speeders. There's a gray speeder and then like a lime green speeder.
That's cool. Do the minifigures look cool?
Yeah, they got their cool, unique little masks. They actually look great for the masks, honestly. And like, Tech has like the little visor that'll go up and down. Hunter looks great. Wreckers is distinct. Crosshairs is longer, like you'd expect it to be. So, I think it's a good looking set. I'm glad Bad Batch is getting more merch, but
yes, is Crosshair in his Imperial stuff? I can't really tell.
It looks like he is not.
No, yeah, it doesn't look like he is.
So
interesting. Well, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious to see what other stuff we get down the line for them, and we got 16 episodes. Maybe we get Bad Batch Mondays, like we got Mando Mondays. I don't know.
For the next like 14 weeks, 15 weeks, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. But maybe that's a season 2 thing. Yeah.
Oh, hopefully. Well, Do you know if they have Black Series for each of the Bad Batch?
I think
for each one of them.
I think there's only a couple right now. Like, I know there's a Hunter one, I know there's a Crosshair one, but I don't know if there's a Wrecker one yet.
Oh, there is a Wrecker one, actually.
Oh, there is?
Okay. But I don't know if it's the Black Series. I don't know. I kind of want to collect all of them, but that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Yeah. I know we talked about it last week. I did not get the Hunter one yet, but I will eventually. I will find that Hunter because he looks sick as hell holding that knife, dude. Like, he looks awesome.
Yeah. I guess there is a Wrecker one, but it doesn't come out until October, so be on the lookout.
Okay. And I do think it's neat too because I'm looking at pictures of him right now just because I wanted to, and I love that the Black Series versions of them look much more like Tamora Morrison than their animated counterparts do. I think that's fun because it's more of a live action version of these.
Yeah. No, they look really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they look great. So definitely going to be acquiring some of them. Like that Wrecker one, I'm seeing it right now, dude. That looks awesome.
Yeah, the Wrecker one looks really cool. And so does the Hunter one. I like I like how I just like all their designs. They're really interesting.
Yeah, just talking about nailing it. I think, once again, the Bad Batch just has such a great look to them in terms of their
Yes.
armor and customization, which Clone Wars already did that really well. And I think the Tartakovsky's Clone Wars like sort of started that clone customization thing. But
Yeah.
Bad Batch they're all great designs.
Very, very, very cool.
The other thing that I saw pop up this week for one last little rumor thing. Last week we were talking about a potential Xbox exclusive Mandalorian game. Now, the speculation was that it was tied to a Bethesda studio, like an Arcane who does Dishonored or something like that. But recently, I didn't see this at all. The Coalition, who makes Gears of War, apparently they were tied to one of these rumors of them making a Star Wars game.
Did we cover that? I feel like I hadn't heard that.
No, I didn't hear that either. But
Yeah, interesting.
this week they were in the news for denying it. Basically, they just said, "Hey, yeah, we're not making a Star Wars game."
Well,
I don't have a history with Gears of War. Do you?
yeah, actually, I played the first three and I really liked them. I'm like thinking about it, like it would be a really interesting, like I'm just imagining like a Clone Wars sort of game when you're like sort of like Republic Commando, but like but like Gears of War style. I feel like would be really cool. But like it's almost like Battlefront though, like just in third person view. um, Man, that would actually be really interesting to have like a Gears of War style like Republic Commando. Do you have any experience with Gears of War?
I really don't. I remember back in the day because I was on PS3, but the multiplayer stuff was way more of a thing on Xbox, and I loved Black Ops Zombies. So like the idea of Gears of War who had the Horde mode was always very
Yeah,
appealing to me.
the Horde mode was really fun.
So yeah, I haven't played Gears of War. I do like a good third-person cover shooter, though, and I know Gears does that excellently. But
Gears is really fun if you like that kind of game. Also, like just the general like art design is very unique, I feel. And the story in the first three games, people sleep on it, but I actually think it's kind of cool.
yeah,
Um,
like it seems like a super-powered Uncharted because Uncharted is a big cover shooter as well, but you're much more
yeah.
like normal man. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot less like character mobility in
yeah.
Gears of War. You feel like really grounded. And it's that actually adds like a lot of a challenge to it in a way.
Sure.
And that's why I was thinking like it would be really interesting for, like a Republic Commando sort of like vibe. But yeah, I actually kind of just like really want that now.
Yeah, no, because I think like talking about it, right? From what I know about Gears of War, I think it makes sense the way that I was hyped up about the team that makes The Division making a Star Wars game for Ubisoft, because The Division, I think, is a great cover shooter with really good tactical cover shooting mechanics that I think could translate
Indeed.
really well to a game in the Star Wars universe. So like, yeah, hearing what you're saying, like maybe a Republic Commando style thing, maybe if they were the ones that did this Bad Batch game that I want so badly, like that could be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, what have they? I guess they've just been working on Gears of War. I haven't played any of the recent ones. I honestly forgot that they've been still coming out with them. I was going to ask what they've been doing recently, but that was a dumb question. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of sucky that they're not going to be making any Star Wars games, but you win some and you lose some. There are some really interesting studios that we've talked about who are, in rumored to be making Star Wars games. So. As sad as this is, I'm still optimistic about the future of Star Wars video games. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. And potentially we're not too far away from seeing some more. E3 is just about a month away. And if like Disney's been licensing out Star Wars to these other companies besides EA, we got a shot for seeing something. Maybe just an announcement, but something.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think we're going to see anything this summer at EA or E3?
At E3 in general, I think maybe there's a shot. Like I think for sure we'll see Lego Star Wars here.
We have to, man.
Yeah.
If we don't get a release date for that at E3, I'll be mad.
I'm almost willing to bet that we will see it there. I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how long it's been in development, if we see a glimpse at the KOTOR remake. Just like an announcement trailer, because I don't know how long they've been working on that, but I think, and then maybe at like the EA event in July, maybe we get like, hey, Fallen Order is getting a sequel and it's coming in 2023. See you later.
Yeah, sort of like how they announced it to begin with.
Yeah,
They were like a few years before they had like that really awkward.
Yeah, the thing in the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see something. You know, I think Star Wars is a series we'll be talking about when it comes to games this summer, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously Fallen Order 3, I feel like, is a given at this point. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to something like a Battlefront, like, probably not, because DICE is, like, any day now going to show off Battlefield 6 for this year. So, like, Battlefront 3 maybe within the next 2 years, I think. But, in terms of
I think
other
that's
stuff,
their...
Yeah.
That's got to be their next project, for sure.
Yeah, you'd imagine, so.
Yeah.
Well, that is everything when it comes to Star Wars news and rumblings for the week. So why don't we get into our discussion on Episode 2 of The Bad Batch, Cut and Run.
You mean The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 4?
Yes. So, before we do spoilers, I guess overall impressions, Mike. What do you think of the episode? Let's hear it.
Honestly, I didn't really like it. To be quite real with you, I guess like a lot of my criticisms are sort of spoiler related.
Okay.
In terms of like like thematically, I just think it's like I'll just say broadly, like I think it's sort of following a similar trend that like the Mandalorian did, and like. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing, but I guess like I just see it just seems like a little bit too on the nose for me at this point. But like I said, we're only on episode 2 of the show, so there's a lot more to go. But I would say I also really enjoy just like building out more of the characters and like the world and like what it's like after Order 66. I think that that's a really interesting aspect of the show. I'm starting to really like the members of the Bad Batch that we have sort of like along with us, and going to Seleucami and sort of having that Clone Wars crossover was interesting. And overall, I'm getting like really hard Clone Wars vibes from this, and I enjoy seeing more Star Wars animation. But I guess like so far it seems a little bit too on the nose to like how the Mandalorian started. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed the episode, but it was definitely like I was enjoying just surface level, like the characters, seeing them. It was like it was kind of a feel good episode, I did watch the episode of Clone Wars that would tee this up because
okay.
I believe it wasn't on our guide because I was recording Excelsior last week with Jack on Friday, and he was like, "Did you watch it?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And he was like, "I gotta see if there's a certain episode that I put on my guide for you guys because it's might be important." And I was like, "Okay, I'll watch that one first," because I was aware that there was a character that like left and started a family with someone, but I didn't see that episode. I think it was like in the non-essential tab for our guide. So I did watch that one before watching this one to get introduced to Cut.
Yeah, he was very only briefly in that Clone Wars episode, as I remember, though.
Yeah,
right.
So it set the scene a little bit, just to get some sort of an idea of what to expect. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, I totally even forgot. Like, I think I had watched it for some reason. I don't think it was in our viewing of the Clone Wars, but I do remember having seen that episode at some point, and but I totally forgot that he was a character for sure. But overall, like, yeah, I would agree that you said it was like a feel good episode, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I thought it was decent all around.
Yeah. So let's get into a bit more, specifics about this. I think it's funny you said that because I was talking to Kayla and she said the exact same thing of like, oh, Omega is Grogu and this is like the Mandalorian setup, of just like,
yeah.
You guys aren't alone with that either, because like I felt it too,
yeah.
And I've seen the internet say that like just Dave Filoni owns the found family story, because like Rebels, you got Kanan and Ezra. Mando, you got Din and Grogu. Clone Wars, to an extent, you got Anakin and Ahsoka. And now here you got Hunter and Omega. So, like, it's a trend.
I know. Yeah, but I mean, like, I just think that it's like a little too derivative of the Mandalorian. Like, like like it just seems a little too like on the nose, doesn't it? Like thematically, like it's the same stuff. Like, you know, Omega is like this like lab, this lab creation essentially, and so are the Bad Batch. Grogu like was being harvested for all of his like Force blood, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian takes him in really unwittingly. The Bad Batch do the same, and then like they have to go through this like, oh, I'm gonna give you up. Oh no, I'm not. And they both like go through it in the beginning of the Mandalorian season 1 and the beginning of the Bad Batch. It just seems like really similar to me, and it was hard to sort of like put that past while I was watching.
Sure.
To be honest.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty. The connection's very clear, right? But I think where I'm not like I don't have a problem with it right now, because I think at a ground structural level, the Bad Batch relationship with Omega, specifically Hunter and Omega, I think is different enough from what we get with Din and Grogu, where this could just be a similar launching point, you know? And then moving forward, we could... Because I think there's an interesting relationship here that Din and Grogu don't have, right? Of Omega is basically, like, kind of their sister in a weird way. So, like, Hunter can relate to her, the entire crew can relate to her, she understands them on an emotional level, and it seems like they can't really think about their emotions. They haven't had time to, because they've been running ops for the Republic all this time, and they're finally getting a chance to, like, steep in that. So, like, I think that's very interesting, and using this episode as a launching point of, like, hey, we do need each other, I think the rest of the season could have that, like, fatherly relationship come across in a way that is distinct from what it is in The Mandalorian, despite the connections here, which I completely agree with. They're very clear here.
Yeah, no, and that's why I tried to temper, like at the beginning of our discussion about this, that's why I tried to temper my thoughts and say that, like, this is only the second episode. So, like, I'm having these thoughts, but we still have, like, so much more storytelling to go through that, it would be sort of silly for me to take this and just be like, oh, like, I'm not looking forward to it, or I don't like it because it's too much like The Mandalorian. And, like, that's just not, like, you can't make that decision at this point because, you've only seen so much of the show. And, like you said, it could be a really great jumping off point for something a lot different. And I do agree with you, like, Omega and the Bad Batch definitely have a different relationship than Din and Grogu. Like, Din and Grogu, they can't really connect with each other on the level that you were describing with, like, Omega and, her brothers, literally. So it's kind of like it is a different relationship. The only thing that I'm worried about is that it seems to me, and this is going to get into like sort of speculation, but it seems to me that they're sort of really leaning into like Omega is like special, like, you know what I mean, like something special about her, like ooh, she's, and it's like almost very clearly like being like, oh, like she's force sensitive. And if that were to be true, this is just speculation, I feel like that would be even more like just even more evidence to the fact that like they're just sort of copying the Mandalorian. So I hope it doesn't really get to that point in the way, but like it does seem as though like that's where it's headed, right?
Sure. So yeah, we can talk about Omega. I wanted to ask a couple questions about that because I think last week I was again fun headcanon thing. I was like, what if she turns into Phasma? Because that'd be super cool, right?
Would be cool.
I made a TikTok. It got like 200,000 views, and every goddamn comment was like, we know Phasma's backstory. She grew up on a Mad Max world. She has a different accent, and it's like, I know. It was a fun thing. Like, this could be her infancy, a very small child of Phasma or something. And it's no, I know it's not true. I know it is not true. It was a fun thing, and that people were just nonstop being like, you stupid American, you don't know the difference between a New Zealand and a British accent. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna stop having theories.
Literally, like it's such an innocent theory that you
I
had,
know.
and you just got absolutely destroyed on the internet.
Yeah.
But
So
honestly, but Christian, 200,000 views, that's impressive.
thank you,
Good
thank
for
you.
you.
But that's the funny thing, and I'm glad you bring up the force sensitive thing because I don't buy that. I don't think she's force sensitive. I see so many people being like, "Oh, clearly Omega's force sensitive, right?" It's like I don't think so. Like why?
Interesting.
Because like the whole thing is that the Empire needs Grogu to make force sensitive cloning work, right? So they like that's the theory that there's some I'd say evidence for that with the Snoke stuff, the blood samples of Grogu,
Yeah.
and you know the fact that Palpatine became a clone and Snoke was a clone and all that stuff. Like that makes sense. So like the Mandalorian's like what 5 after the Battle of Endor. So like I don't know the math here specifically, but I think we're getting close to like 30 years prior. If the Kaminoans just made a force-sensitive clone of Jango Fett, do you not think that would like throw a wrench in some things? Like, I don't see why that's a locked and loaded theory that people have.
Well, I think like so. Number one, it wasn't the Empire that made Omega.
Right.
It was the Kaminoans, and know that Nala Se from Episode 1, it either has a soft spot for Omega or understands her true potential and you know stop the Empire from capturing her essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's we don't know where the Bad Batch is going. We don't know where Omega's character is going. It could be that she, you know, just like never really ends up in the Empire's hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. Like, are you saying that like just that technology would be there? Because you have to also remember that Camino isn't technically like in that same galaxy. It's in a separate galaxy.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just an interesting sort of thing. It's just not. I'm not sure if the Empire would necessarily know that Omega even exists.
Yeah, I think the main thing would be like if Omega was in such close proximity to Tarkin and she's so tied to the Bad Batch, like we don't know where this is going, but if the Bad Batch are going to be constantly hunted, you'd imagine that there will probably be a point where I assume if Omega really is force sensitive, she's going to pull a Cal Kestis and like in a moment of having to help Hunter from dying, she's going to use the force. And it's like the Empire sees it happen. It's like, wait, what? Like, was she... So, like, I think if you introduce her being force sensitive, there's so many questions that could be raised of like, so how did the Empire not know if they are so dead set on finding the Bad Batch? You know, they're probably under constant surveillance or like they're a high target, I'd assume. So like, how would that slip by? I'm sure they could explain it, but I just don't think it's a locked in. She has to be force sensitive. Like that's her thing. I don't know if that's such a given, personally.
It's not. Yeah, it's definitely not like a locked in. It's just like it just seems like.
Mike, I think your mic cut out for a sec.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, I said yeah. So it's not really a locked thing at all, in my opinion. But it just seems like the more obvious route that they would go.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like if you were sitting down like thinking about like Star Wars and like where you want this to go, you would want some sort of like Force user in it for sure. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just like we know that in the Bad Batch season, in the Bad Batch episode 2, I believe they talk about how the Kaminoans like always do things for a reason, right? I think one of the characters says that, or maybe that was episode 1. So I just feel like, you know, she's definitely has something special about her. They all do. I wouldn't be surprised if she was force sensitive. I'm not saying that I really want to see that, because I just think it would make too much sense and just be too obvious, like you're saying. And I do understand where you're coming from as well. Like, I see the points that you're making and that you don't really buy the fact that she's force sensitive. But it would just kind of make sense if she was. But I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, because I think also with like the skill she's shown so far in these 2 episodes, I think if you looked at, say, like Hunter was in her position, right, of just this clone who's special, like Hunter's abilities, he's got like really great tracking, really heightened senses, or like Crosshair's laser focused accuracy and aiming. Like, I think if you introduce a clone who's enhanced and you see that without the added exploration of and like details of why they're special, if you see that, you would be like, oh, they're force sensitive, clearly. I feel like that's the same logic of like, no, she's just an enhanced clone like the rest of them. We just don't know the specifics yet. Which, you see what I'm saying about like, if you look at the other ones, you could easily have that same read.
For sure. Like, there have been times in this show where like Hunter like knows where something is, when like no person would know where that is. You know what I mean? Like, so I see what you're saying. Like, she could just have like a special ability that we just don't really know about yet, that we don't really get, that we can't really like decipher from what the show has shown us of Omega, or maybe she doesn't even really fully understand them herself. And that will be like a part of like, you know, what's going on here. I think that honestly, I think it's 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised. Would you be surprised if she was force sensitive? Like,
No.
I wouldn't be.
I definitely wouldn't be surprised. I just don't think it's the path they'll take here, because I think it opens up so many more, maybe not inconsistencies, but just like questions of like, so how does this work? You know, like I think there's a lot more gray area that you get for introducing a force sensitive clone this early in the timeline, as considering it's such an important thing for the sequels, like 30 years from now, right? That's such a huge thing. So
yeah, it is a huge thing. We're gonna have to wait and see. She's already groundbreaking because she's the first like female clone, I think. So
yeah, and like that's another huge thing of like, hey, so genetics work that way, so we could do that with a clone. So like I think there's definitely room for her special thing to not be she can move things with her mind, you know? Like, I think there's definitely room. So
yeah, definitely.
In terms of the rest of the episode, though, were there any standout moments? Because again, it was kind of a low-key one, pretty tried and true story arc of, you know, the back and forth of we're staying, we're leaving, we're helping. A fun little thing. I thought it was very funny to see Wrecker like bench pressing a gonk droid. That was great.
Interesting stuff for world building. I especially liked that one small scene where you could see that Imperial officer making that hologram message to all the inhabitants of Seleucami, basically saying like, if you want the credits turned into like real Imperial currency, like get your chain code and stuff like that. And I was getting some real surveillance state critique coming through this episode, in terms of like, oh, why does everybody have a tracking? No.
I think your mic got loose again.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you not hear?
I heard the stuff about the chain code and the surveillance commentary and stuff like that. So like it cut out like a second ago. So
yeah, just I thought that was interesting commentary, and it was very, very nuanced for a Star Wars show.
Definitely. So, but overall, I'm with you. I think it was a pretty maybe safe episode. Pretty much expectations. It does seem that we're setting up the eventual Rex meetup this episode, because Cut mentions that Rex was just here, so like who knows when Rex pops up. But I would love if Rex is involved with the crew for the majority of the season. I don't know what your expectation is for Rex, but I
mean, I feel like he's got to show up at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
I think like he was in the trailer, I'm pretty sure, for the season, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I was thinking about this, like, I really want to see footage of D. Bradley Baker, like, recording this show, because he must just, like, I don't know, like how fast does he move through the different voices that he does? It's just like really funny. Like most of it's just all him.
Very impressive. I think
Yeah.
once the Emmys roll around post Bad Batch, he definitely deserves a nod because he's doing a great job for all these performances on all these clones.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He's like 65% of the show.
Yeah, and there's so many. That's spread across so many characters. Like that's so impressive. He's doing a great job.
He really is. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the episode itself, I thought it was pretty safe. I thought it was interesting to see Cut come up again. One thing I didn't understand is like why didn't he just take his family on the Bad Batch's ship? I guess we'll never get the answer to that. It just seems like a lot easier than forging chain codes at that point, you know?
I think it might have been like if we get caught, we'll be associated with you sort of thing. Maybe.
Yeah, and I know he was like, "Oh, you're dangerous people, and I have to take care of them first." But like once they realized that they had to like sneak aboard a ship, like it just would have been a lot easier to. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. It's cool to see like clone troopers act like stormtroopers. I like that.
And I'm with you on what you're saying of like it's just cool seeing more of this transition period because we're only a few days removed from Order 66 at this point, so seeing that transition and like the currency like you mentioned and all that, like it's cool, and I hope that's a focus for the majority of the season, just like in the background seeing these changes happen, and by the end of the season maybe it's looking a lot more like the Empire we know, so that could be very fun. But
I thought it was interesting how the Empire impounded everybody's car essentially. That's one of the first acts Emperor Palpatine did. Yeah, everybody, you can't drive anymore.
Yeah,
sorry.
Very interesting stuff. But overall, I was very, very high on the premiere. I liked this episode, but I'm with you. It was a sort of a safe, like we've been here before sort of thing. Very curious what next week's episode is going to bring in terms of progressing this forward and teeing up where we're going for the rest of the season, because I think by the next 2 episodes we'll probably have an idea of like the big thing for the season. So
for sure. I'm excited to continue watching this.
Me too. Overall excited. So
definitely. Yeah, I don't want people to think that I'm being too negative. I overall enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're being negative at all. Like you brought up very good points, and I agree with that. So we'll see where we go next week. But until then, Mike, where can the listeners find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok if you want to yell at me about my Star Wars theories at Chun2D2. This show is available on youtube.com/joyclicks under the Jedi Knights playlist. If you want the video version, you can check us out on Twitter at Jedi Knights JC for updates on the show. If you want,
can check out our 80 episode backlog if you haven't already.
And I'll say this too: if you're new to Bad Batch and you're like, "Who the hell's Cut?" We do have a guide. There's like 70 episodes of need to watch Clone Wars plus the final season. Maybe just add the episode that Cut was in to that list, and then you'll be caught up. But yeah,
we have to update the. We'll have to update the doc.
Yeah, I think that's still posted as the pinned tweet on the Twitter account though, so you can check that out. Shout out to Jack Martin.
Yes.
The show is also available in audio format on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any audio service of your choice. If you can rate or review on that platform, it would be appreciated because it helps us out a ton. It takes a quick second to hit the 5 stars. If you want to get involved further, patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go to support this show and all the shows. The $5 tier for producer credit like Chris Sackus and Aaron Easton. And Joyclicks as a whole coming up in a little less than a month, probably. We're doing our second Hall of Game induction, where we all bring a little game we think is worthy of being called the GOAT, greatest of all time. So, second ceremony happening in June. Will a Star Wars game show up? Who knows? But we're all going to be bringing something. So,
hopefully, my game can make it to the finals this time. So.
Yeah, you did a great job before. So
did you, Christian.
Thank you, Mike. But that is going to do it for Jedi Knights this week. We'll be back next week with more Bad Batch and Mike in the host seat, so look forward to that. And until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.